What's up everybody, it's Park with BI Elite. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to perform crossover analysis within Power BI. Crossover analysis is extremely helpful in order to visualize two different metrics and see which metric is currently above or below the other metric, creating this kind of crossover area. For example, we're looking at some stock price data. Right now we're looking at Facebook stock price data, and we're specifically looking at the 50-day simple moving average versus the 100-day simple moving average. And we can see that there is plenty of crossover where those different moving averages go above or below each other. So in this red section here, that means the 100-day simple moving average is below the 50-day simple moving average. And then as the 50 comes above the 100, we have this green section, and they kind of vary back and forth until the very end where we have the 100-day simple moving average below the 50-day average again. This type of analysis may be useful for investors looking at stock price data like we are, or you might find your own use case as well. I find that this crossover plot adds a lot of value to whatever data that I'm visualizing. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Carlos over at Microsoft Excel Recalc or Die. It's an awesome YouTube channel that has a couple of really cool tricks. Specifically, Carlos has recently posted a video on how to create a band chart within Power BI, which provided the base for how we're going to perform this crossover analysis or create this crossover plot. So definitely check out Carlos's channel. The link will be down in the description. Before we get into the trick, I want to take a second to ask you, if you do like the video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Subscribing is the best way to show your support of the channel and helps me continue making Power BI content. Also, if you like the way I present these Power BI concepts, make sure you check out my training over on training.bielite.com. The link will be down in the description. And with that, let's go ahead and get into how to set up this crossover plot. So we're on the Finish tab. I'm going to go over to the Demo tab and start from scratch. So firstly, I have a simple line chart set up with a 50-day simple moving average against a 100-day simple moving average. And if we want to take a quick look at the measure to do this, I just posted a video a couple months ago on how to create a simple moving average, but it's a simple average X function. It's basically going to smooth out the daily stock price data into a 50-day average. And we're doing the exact same thing to create a 100-day simple moving average as well. So the 100-day is going to be even smoother than the 50-day. And then if we plot these two, we can start to see how the lines cross over each other. For example, like I was explaining earlier, when the 100-day moving average is above the 50-day, we see the red line above the green line and then the green line above the red line. So the purpose of us creating a crossover plot will be to actually show the area between where there is that crossover. So I've already started a visual up top. I've just thrown date in the axis. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to calculate the minimum value of either of these metrics. So basically we want the minimum value regardless of which metric it is. So in the first section, we see that they are the exact same until we hit that 50-day mark. And then the 50-day SMA actually drops below the 100-day SMA. So we just want to get the minimum of either of the values at any point in time. So we can do that by calculating the minimum SMA. And I did that by taking a min X and taking both of my values, my 50-day SMA and my 100-day SMA, and unioning them together and taking the minimum value. So once we have that, I'm actually going to throw this on our bottom plot here. So min SMA, and I'm going to color that a nice gold so it sticks out. So maybe a yellow. So we see that this yellow value is always the bottom value. So there is no crossover, it's always the minimum value. So I'm going to get rid of that from my bottom chart. I'm going to throw that in my top chart. And real quick, this bottom chart is a normal line chart, and the one above it is a stacked area chart. That's incredibly important because we're going to have to stack measures on top of each other to create those crossover zones. It'll all make more sense as we go through it, maybe a couple times. So let's go ahead and take that min SMA measure and throw that in the values. And let's give that a certain color. I'm going to give that Let's give that a gray color for now. So we have this little gray area. Next, what I want to do is I want to create a second measure. I'm calling this min SMA2, and I'm setting it equal to 0. So what this first section is going to do is it's going to give us basically the bottom area to start our crossover plot, but we need another measure that equals 0 to throw on top of it that provides us with a line. So in order to make this make more sense, I'm going to rename these values. I'm going to call this one lower area, and I'm going to call this other one lower line. So as we change these colors, it might make a little bit more sense. I'm going to change my lower area to be simply white, so it doesn't even show, and my lower line is going to be red. It may not seem like you need both of these values, but you actually do, because if we change that lower area to simply be white, we won't have a line. If we change it to red, the bottom area will show as red. So we need both to have the bottom area and the bottom line. And then next, in order to provide the other lines that go on top of this minimum line, we need to create two more measures. Firstly, we need a 100-day minus the minimum. So this is my simple 100-day SMA minus the min SMA that we just looked at. And we're going to take that and throw this below the lower line. So we'll throw it right there. And I'm going to color this to make it make a little bit more sense as well. So I'm going to make this 100-day minus minimum red as well. So this is going to create the little area where the 50-day SMA goes below the 100-day SMA. And we only see that a couple times in our chart here. So this 50 days below the 100 here, and at the end it's below the 100-day SMA again. And real quick, let me color this gold to highlight it. So this does make a little bit of sense. So we have our red line, which is the minimum of all time, and our new measure is 100-day minus the minimum. So when the 100-day is larger than the minimum, there is going to be a little bit of a difference, and that's what's going to create this line above it, and that creates that little pocket. So let's turn this back to red. And we just need one more measure in order to create the positive version of the crossover plot. And we can do that with the 50-day minus the min. Same thing, it's just 50-day SMA measure minus the min SMA measure. And we'll throw that below. And let's color that green so it makes a little bit more sense. And there we go. That's actually the entire trick, but I know it may be a little bit confusing because there are a lot of stacked areas. You have to figure out how they stack in order to make the proper plot. So when the 50-day SMA is larger than the minimum value, it means the 50-day is larger than the 100. So we have this little area where the 50-day is higher. On this point right here, we see that my 50-day SMA is 27 points higher than my 100-day SMA, or 27 points higher than my minimum. So it creates this pocket above the minimum line. You can finesse a lot of cool techniques by using this stacked area chart. Again, make sure you check out the band chart tutorial that Carlos has put together. He does a really cool visualization to create this kind of area behind a line. It's really, really cool. So let's quickly go through this one more time. I'm going to get rid of all of my measures here. So while you have a blank slate here with just the date in the x-axis, we need to throw in our minimum SMA. And remember, that is just the minimum of the 50 or 100-day SMA. Throw that in the values. And that gets a color of white. And actually, I'm going to skip the second value with that minimum SMA2, and let's go directly into the 100-day minus min. And let's throw in the 50-day minus min. And you'll see that we don't have this bottom line here. That's why we need that min SMA2 to act as that lower line. So let's go ahead and back up a little bit. Min SMA2 below the min SMA. That's going to create that line on top of our lower area. And let's just color this. So min SMA2 is going to be red because it's always the bottom area of the line. And then we're going to bring in the 100-day minus min. That's going to finish out this little section, this lower area. We can also color that one red. And then we're going to take our 50-day SMA, or 50-day minus min, excuse me, and throw that on top of there and color that green as well. So with those two extra measures, we're able to create those two different crossover sections depending on which measure is below the other measure. And we have our crossover plot. So I hope that makes some sense. I hope you like this visual. It's really useful in case you have two measures and you quickly want to see which one is above the other one. If you like this video and want to download the sample PBIX file, make sure you check out the blog post link in the description. Also check out my training over at training.bielite.com. We have some great training courses on Power BI, DAX, Alteryx, and SQL at the moment. And I'll see you in the next video.